Caesar's Palace still glitters on the Strip, but behind the gold facade, CEO Tom Reeg has just confessed an unthinkable truth. Their iconic business is crumbling. Room rates once promised the $4.99 prime rib, now replaced by $450 rooms and $55 resort fees. As Reeg warns, they're cutting out the lowest-end guests. Profits are collapsing, regulars are fleeing, and the empire that defined Las Vegas may be doomed. What happened inside Caesars to threaten the very survival of Vegas? And could this shocking admission mean the end of accessible Sin City forever? Step back into the heyday of Caesar's Palace, when Las Vegas was built for the masses and every visitor, no matter their background, was treated like royalty. The promise was simple: walk through the doors and you belonged. Factory workers from Cleveland and secretaries from Des Moines could sit at the same blackjack tables as CEOs, sharing the same comped drinks and the same thrill of possibility. It wasn't just marketing, it was the foundation of an empire. The house edge was modest, but the crowds were enormous. Caesars thrived on volume, not exclusivity. The casino floor buzzed with $5 minimum tables, each one packed with hopefuls clutching their chips and dreaming of a hot streak. A night out didn't require a trust fund. Room rates hovered between $39 and $79 for most of the 2010s, and even the most iconic properties kept their doors open to anyone with a few bills in their wallet. Food was part of the spectacle. The $4.99 prime rib at Bally's, another Caesars property, became a rite of passage for generations of visitors. Shrimp cocktails for $1, breakfast buffets for less than $8, and the unspoken agreement that if you played, you ate. Drinks flowed freely for gamblers, whether you were betting $5 or $500 a hand. The psychological contract was clear: lose a little at the tables, and Caesars would make sure you felt like you'd won something anyway. People came back again and again. For many, it was the highlight of the year. A chance to escape the grind and step into a world of marble columns, velvet ropes, and glimmering lights. The city's greatest trick was making everyone feel important. In the Rat Pack era, it wasn't unusual to see a construction worker and a movie star at neighboring tables, each treated with the same easy hospitality. This was the democratization of luxury, and it worked. Caesar's profits soared because millions could afford to visit, lose a little, and leave with a story. The casino didn't need to squeeze every dollar out of every guest. Instead, it relied on the steady hum of visitors, the repeat business of people who felt welcomed, not judged. The magic of Las Vegas wasn't just the chance to win big. It was the guarantee that anyone, for a weekend, could feel like a king or queen. That social contract, more than any neon sign or marble statue, was the real foundation beneath Caesar's golden facade. In 2018, everything changed. Eldorado Resorts took over Caesars Entertainment in a deal that would saddle the company with $12.7 billion in new debt. The old promise of affordable luxury was swept aside by a new corporate directive: maximize revenue per guest, no matter the cost to tradition. Tom Reeg, the CEO who steered the merger, was blunt with investors. On a 2023 earnings call, he said, "You're kicking out the lowest end. I see no reason that needs to stop or would stop. That's not a misquote. That's the plan." The financial burden from the merger was enormous. Covering billions in debt meant every part of the guest experience became a revenue stream. Resort fees, once unheard of, soared to $55 or more per night by 2024. Parking, free for decades, now costs $25 per day on weekends. Even basic room rates shot up. What once cost $79 in 2012 could now run $450 or more for a standard weekend stay. For many, the sticker shock began before they even stepped inside. The changes didn't stop at the front desk. Complimentary drinks, a Vegas staple, became scarce, except for high-level players. A simple cocktail could cost $30, while the classic $7.99 breakfast buffet was replaced by the $70 Bacchanal experience, rebranded as a premium event for a shrinking elite. On the casino floor, $5 blackjack tables vanished, replaced by $25 and $50 minimums. The message was unmistakable. Casual gamblers and budget travelers were no longer welcome. Behind the scenes, the loyalty program was rewritten. Earning a free room or a comp-ed meal now required far more spending. Long-time guests found themselves bumped down the pecking order, their status devalued overnight. Visible class divisions emerged, with exclusive areas and fast-track perks for high rollers, while everyone else paid more and received less. Every new policy tied back to the same cold calculation. Fewer guests, but each one spending far more. The hope was that high-end customers would make up for the lost volume. But the debt hung over every decision, forcing a relentless focus on extracting maximum profit from every visitor. The social contract that once defined Caesars was rewritten in legalese and ledgers. And as the old crowd disappeared, the company braced itself for the consequences of its own strategy. A row of empty blackjack tables stretches across the casino floor, where the only sound on a Tuesday afternoon is the soft hum of air conditioning. The atmosphere is nothing like the crowded electric scene that defined Caesars for decades. One dealer, who has worked the tables for over 15 years, describes it this way. Tuesday through Thursday, it feels like a library. We're standing at empty tables, waiting for players who can't afford to come anymore. That silence is more than just awkward. It's costly. Fewer guests means fewer tips. A shift that once brought in $300 to $500 in gratuities now barely clears 120 each. Dealers compare notes on break, trading stories about slow nights and shrinking paychecks. Some have been moved to part-time, their schedules cut, as management tries to match staffing to the new, thinner crowds. It isn't just the dealers feeling the squeeze. Cocktail servers, once run ragged delivering free drinks to packed tables, now spend hours with little to do. Housekeeping staff report entire wings closed off midweek, with fewer rooms to clean and fewer hours on the clock. The casino's workforce, once a stable backbone of the city's middle class, faces mounting uncertainty. Schedules change week to week. Benefits are harder to qualify for. Some employees pick up ride-share shifts or second jobs just to make up the difference. The sense of loss extends beyond paychecks. For many, working at Caesars was a source of pride, a place where hard work meant steady income and a front-row seat to the city's endless parade of visitors. Now, staff gather in break rooms and wonder out loud if the crowds will ever return. The casino's official occupancy rate still hovers above 90% according to the latest company filings, but the reality on the floor tells a different story. Midweek, entire sections of the casino sit unused. Dealers stand at their posts, scanning the empty felt, waiting for a rush that never comes. On the Strip, stories like these are becoming common. The cost of a Vegas weekend has climbed out of reach for many of the regulars who once kept these tables busy. And as the crowds thin, the effects ripple outward, from the dealers and servers losing hours to the small businesses that depend on their spending. The golden promise of Caesars, affordable excitement, open to all, has faded into memory for the people who made it run. Las Vegas once prided itself on a steady stream of visitors, but the numbers now tell a different story. Caesars' own filings revealed that citywide visitation to the Strip dropped between 6 and 11% year over year in 2025. That's not a blip. It's hundreds of thousands of would-be guests choosing to stay home or spend their money elsewhere. For Caesars, the impact is clear. Revenue from Las Vegas operations fell by nearly 10% in the third quarter alone, with net income plunging over 40% compared to the previous year. CEO Tom Reeg didn't sugarcoat it on the latest earnings call, admitting, "Occupancy was down about 5 percentage points. That's about 90,000 room nights for us." But these missing guests didn't simply vanish. They migrated. Laughlin, Nevada, a riverside casino town 2 hours south, has seen double-digit growth in visitation, with industry reports pointing to a surge as high as 17%. Laughlin's pitch is simple. The old Vegas formula, intact. Lower minimums, affordable rooms, and comp perks that haven't been stripped away. Regional casinos across the country are seeing similar gains, with year-over-year growth in the 8 to 12% range as former Vegas regulars find value closer to home. The digital frontier is booming too. Nevada's regulated online casino revenue jumped over 40% in the past year, as more gamblers log in from their living rooms rather than pay $30 for a cocktail or $55 for a resort fee. Social media is full of stories from former Strip loyalists who now play online, lured by convenience and lower costs. The migration isn't just anecdotal, it's visible in the numbers, with online platforms and regional properties picking up the slack left by the Strip's declining foot traffic. The result is a shrinking pool of guests on Las Vegas Boulevard, even as the average spend per visitor climbs. Fewer people are paying more, but the math doesn't work. The lost volume has dragged down total revenue, and the city's once dependable crowds are now fueling growth in places Caesars once considered competition. The old promise of accessible excitement has been replaced by a new reality, one where the market is moving on and the Strip's empty tables are no longer a rare sight. Resorts World sits just north of the Strip's old guard, and in 2023 it made a gamble of its own. Management slashed resort fees, rolled back parking charges, and cut prices on rooms and dining. The results were immediate. Occupancy jumped by more than 15 percentage points in a single quarter, pushing the property's numbers well above the Strip's average. While others doubled down on exclusivity, Resorts World's bet on accessibility filled its hotel and casino with a new wave of guests. Families, budget travelers, and small-time gamblers who had all but given up on Vegas. Off-strip properties followed a similar playbook. The Orleans and Station casinos kept room rates steady and resisted the urge to pile on extra charges. Their gaming floors stayed busy, even as Strip giants watched their midweek traffic evaporate. These casinos didn't need to chase high rollers. They focused on the steady stream of visitors looking for a fair deal, a $20 table, a cheap meal, and maybe a free drink if luck was on their side. The formula wasn't complicated, but it worked. Industry analysts took notice. Market reports credited Resorts World's pricing strategy for outpacing the competition, especially as citywide occupancy fell to just under 80%. While Caesars and other Strip titans lost tens of thousands of room nights, Resorts World's hotels were full, its casino floor buzzing. The lesson was hard to ignore. The demand for affordable Vegas never disappeared. It was simply waiting for someone to open the door again. For years, executives claimed that chasing premium guests was the only path forward. But the numbers told a different story. When one property made it easier for regular people to come back, they did, by the thousands. The choice to price out the masses was never inevitable. It was a business decision, and the proof was right there in the surge of new arrivals at properties that remembered what made Las Vegas famous in the first place. Tom Reeg's words land with the weight of a warning bell. On the recent earnings call, he didn't hide the problem. Volumes in our Strip properties were soft, but premium product performed best. He tried to soften the blow, comparing the situation to a tire with a leak that's been patched. But there's no mistaking the reality behind the analogy. Demand is down and the patch is temporary. Wall Street didn't buy the reassurance. Caesars stock tumbled 8% in the days after the call, a direct response to the company's own admission. What once worked in Las Vegas isn't working anymore. The real trap isn't just falling revenue or empty tables. It's the mountain of debt that keeps Caesars locked into its failing strategy. With over $12 billion to service, the company can't afford to cut prices or bring back the perks that once filled its hotels and casinos. Every quarter, the need to squeeze more out of fewer guests grows more desperate. Lowering rates or dropping fees would mean missing loan payments. But keeping prices sky high means watching the regulars disappear and the dominoes start to fall. Fewer guests lead to fewer hours for workers, less money for small businesses, and a strip that feels hollow even when the lights are on. The warning isn't just for Caesars. MGM, Wynn, and other giants are watching the same numbers and feeling the same pressure. The strip was built for crowds, not a handful of high rollers. When the masses vanish, the entire ecosystem, restaurants, shows, retail, city jobs, faces collapse. The irony is sharp. In chasing the wealthy, Caesars forgot who built its empire. The middle-class dreamers who made Vegas famous are gone, and the luxury elite have better options elsewhere. This is the moment to speak up. If you remember cheap rooms, comped drinks, and the thrill of feeling like a winner even when you lost, make your voice heard. Comment below with your Vegas story. Do you want the old Vegas back? Because the people who built this city are the only ones who can save it from collapse. In the second quarter of 2024, Caesars Entertainment reported an 11% drop in regional revenue, and midweek occupancy at Caesars Palace fell below 85%, numbers that would have been unthinkable in the casino's heyday. The evidence is clear. A strategy built on debt and premium pricing has pushed away the middle-class guests who once filled every table and room. CEO Tom Reeg's own words, admitting softer than expected performance in Las Vegas, mark a rare public acknowledgement of the crisis. Yet, many details remain undisclosed, including the company's plans for potential property closures or meaningful policy reversals. What is certain, based on company filings and market data, is that competitors who kept prices accessible are now thriving, while Caesars faces declining visitation and shrinking market share. The fate of Caesars isn't just about one casino, it's a warning for the entire strip. When a business abandons the customers who built its empire, the foundation starts to crack.